pure experiences.
Okay, today's topic is the experience, and it is a repeat topic. We started from the presence, then we found two components of the presence. One of them was the experiencer. We had meetings on the experiencer part, and now today we are going into the experience itself. So, what is experience? Experience is all that which is manifested, all that which is witnessed by the experiencer. So there are two, and the experience is the second part of the presence. Now, what do I mean by existence? It is also called creation. The word existence has, as you must have noticed, it has an X in front of it and a stance, which comes from the Sanskrit root for stay or to be. So X, when you put X in front of something, it always means outside. So that which stands outside, that which stays outside, is the existence. And the Sanskrit word is prakriti, and which comes from the root word for doing something. So the root is kri, which means to do something, to create, and so prakriti means all that which was created. Now, for our discussion, purpose of our discussion, the words experience, existence, and creation, they are all the same. Even manifestation, the manifested part of what that is what I mean by the experience. All that can be witnessed by the experiencer is the experience. So I'm going into definitions so that we don't confuse the word experience with its other meanings. The common everyday meaning is work experience, or life experience, or good experience, or bad experience. So we are not talking about that kind of experiences. We are talking about something very basic, which the experiencer is having. A person cannot have an experience because the person itself is an experience, is a part of the experience. It can be experienced. So this is a short answer to the question, what is the experience? Now, there are many ways to study the experience. The first is obviously direct observation. So we will try to find out as much as we can only through the direct observation, using the mind as a tool. So first of all, if there is just oneness, then how come the experience is generated? How is the creation created? Who creates it? What creates it? How it is done? So why are there two parts when there needs to be only oneness? It is the mind. We have seen that it is the mind that divides what is into two, and gives this illusion that there are two. It divides all that is and stands in between it and calls the one part as the experiencer and the other part as the experience. That which is unchanging becomes the experiencer. That which changes, is fleeting, comes and goes, is called the experience. So it assumes that it has been created because that's what its knowledge is, and the fact is that the experience, the creation, is uncreated. It is as fundamental as the experiencer itself, and because the experiencer was also never created, the experience was also never created. All that is manifested is just happening. It is already there. It was not created. So when it was not created, the question of the creator never arises. Some people can say that the consciousness or the experiencer itself creates everything and then experiences it. If you use your direct observation, you will never find it creating anything. So it is just a metaphor. It is just experiencing everything. It is just a witness. All that is already is. Nothing is created. What happens is it changes. It changes from one form to another. And you can as well call this process as creation. So when you take clay and make a pot out of it, now it is a clay pot. But what has happened is, and we can, in the ordinary language, we can say that I have created the clay pot. But what has happened is the experience of the clay has turned into the experience of the pot. There is a change there. Whatever may be the agency, it does not matter. There is only change. So there is no creation, there is just change. One experience is changing into another continuously. Even boundaries of the experience of the change are artificial. It is just an assumption, an idea in the mind. So the mind, calls the experience as creation because it finds things coming and going, and then assumes a creator. And this is all ignorance. It is all an assumption. Everything just is. And it is somewhat beyond the mind to know why things are there. Why is there even an experience? The closest that it can come to is that everything, all the experiences, everything that can be witnessed is just is. And then when the mind tries to find it, it finds it as standing outside somewhere because it can perceive it, it can sense it. So automatically it puts a label of standing, existence on it. That means something which is not me. So it divides everything that is into me and not me, experiencer and not the experiencer. And then sometimes puts itself into the experiencer category, sometimes puts itself into the experience category. And we know that it is not very consistent about this identification. So you can as well call an experiencer as I, and then you can as well, it is equally valid to call the experience also as I. Whatever is around me is also me. The division and the identification is kind of arbitrary. It is an assumption. You can assume anything you want. So mind does it as it finds convenient, and mostly the reason is survival. If it wants to survive, it must separate itself from what it is not and draws a boundary around itself, and the part that it is very much interested in keeping intact. And then that boundary, whatever is inside that boundary, inside that small circle, is me. So you can extend this circle to any dimension you want, and everything is just me. You can call it like this, but it is totally unnecessary. Everything is just is. It is not me, it is not you, it is not that. It is. So this is the fundamental thing. But we can, for the purpose of study, we can always divide and then study, because this is the way the mind works. This is the way the mind understands everything, by dividing it. But we should remember that the division is all for convenience only. What is there, and it is seen as changing. It is seen as being created. It is seen as being destroyed. So why is there change when nothing is getting created, nothing is getting destroyed? Then how is it even possible that there is change? And we have seen that the essence of what is the experiencer, and it never changes. So then why there is a change? The thing is, it is kind of beyond the mind to grasp this. At least I could not understand it. So the closest I have come is that there is no change actually. The change is virtual. And what do I mean by the statement that there is no change and it is virtual? It is an illusion. The change is also an illusion. And then what is it that is seen as changing? There must be something. So the only satisfactory explanation that I've come across so far is that all the possibilities are already there in the presence. All the possibilities are already there in the being, the existence, and whatever exists. They are already there. And what the mind is doing is, mind is shifting from one possibility to other possibility continuously. And the more organized the mind is, the more organized is this shifting. And then why? And that is how the experience is generated. That is how a change is generated. It is seen as a change, one thing changing into the another. But what is actually happening is that the mind is shifting from one possibility to another in a very organized way. Sometimes not so organized, but there will be a change. So, for example, the experience of the physical world is very much organized. You go to your kitchen and today the fridge is there and it will be there tomorrow also. It does not disappear suddenly. There is some continuity, there is some logic there is some consistency in that experience. It is because mind is well organized, so its experiences is shifting from one possibility to another is also nicely organized. There is some consistency in the experience. But if you take the example of a dream, everything changes into something else totally randomly. Sometimes there is a little bit of meaning in there, but mostly it is a meaningless mishmash of things in dream. Why? Because that time the mind is, that part of the mind is not well organized, so it is simply entertaining whatever comes there. Better the mind is, better the experience is from the point of view of the mind, then it is shifting. But why it is shifting? And that is another question that I have never found any answer to. The most convincing and the answer that makes sense so far, for me at least, is that the shifting is also a possibility. It is also there, and that's why it is happening. So, because presence is infinite, it has all the possibilities and infinite amounts of possibilities. This mind is one of the possibility, and it is happening. And the change in the minds that perceive everything, they have the ability to shift their attention from one thing to another, and one possibility to another is also a possibility, and that is also happening. And we humans, are a manifestation of one of that possibility out of the infinite possible things. So all that is just is. All possibilities are already there. Nothing is changing. It is the mind that is shifting. Why? Because that is possible. Now, this sounds like very, very philosophical, deep, and kind of very spiritual stuff. So, and I am not very, very confident about all these things. These things cannot be directly experienced. When we experience everything, we see it as events, happenings that are changing, continuously changing. But we can go down one level deeper, one level into the ignorance, and accept what is, accept the change, accept the experience as it is, and then try to study it. That makes more sense. So what is experience? And that is the next question. There is experience, but what is being experienced? It is a happening, it is an event. So you will find that all of our experiences are just patterns of change. There is change, it is changing in a certain way, in a patterned way. If you go to the most basic, you will find only this. There are patterns and patterns and patterns are everything. So then we can classify those experiences again, divide it again in order to study, and you will find two fundamental kinds of experiences, fundamentally two kinds, basic kinds, and they are the experience of the world and the experience of the mind. So also called as the physical experiences and the non-physical experiences. So physical is whatever is outside the body from the point of view of the mind. Even the body, some part of the body is also outside. It can be seen through the senses. So whatever the experiences that are mediated via senses are physical, and the experiences that are perceived directly by the mind are non-physical or mental. So we can make this division, which is also artificial, which is only for convenience. There are no two fundamentally different kinds of experiences. There is only one kind, but we can divide it into two in order to study it. So the general belief is that mind is one thing and the world is another thing, simply because the experiences are different. So there is a half truth there, because it is not wrong to say that. But if you remove senses, then what remains? Only the experience of the mind. There is no experience of the physical world. So it is it is still there. The world is still there. The only thing is the perception has disappeared. So it is very, very strong illusion that since it is not me, it is not, I cannot see it, that means it must exist independently of me. And You can make it disappear simply by closing the eyes and ears. And so probably I am the one who is probably that is the reality, and I am the one who comes and goes. This is the impression of the mind. But this happens because we create this division in our experience of physical and non-physical. So if you take a closer look, where is the separation? You try to find the separation. How far away is the experience of the world from you? And you will find that the objects are seen as far away. The sounds are heard as coming from far away. The touch is located outside, and the smells and tastes, they are not located that much, but you can find a cause of it outside the body. And that is why mind simply assigns a location to all those experiences outside and calls them out as outside. If you stop doing that, you will find that the experience is still there. It is exactly as it was. This time the experience has no location. It is just there, and it is happening here, just like the mental experiences. So using this kind of technique of introspection, you can find that there is no separation, there is no distance between the experiencer and the experience. We have seen this in our previous meetings. The definition of the separation breaks down when you go into the fundamental truth. The separation is there as an assumption. Otherwise, in reality, there is no separation. So there are, mind divides the experience into these two convenient things, physical and non-physical, which are just one thing. And then what it is, we don't know what it is. It is just presence. It is just me. It is just experiencer. And that's why we call them as metaphysical. So there are just metaphysical patterns. We can choose to classify them into this or that kind using this or that criteria. For example, criteria of senses, sensory perception, instantly gives you a physical world and a non-physical mind. You can use any criteria you want and classify that thing into any number of experiences. So mind does that. And another thing that you will find in the experience, another property of the experience is that it is ever changing. There is change, and the change is seen as an experience. And then the regular change is abstracted into concept of time. So mind puts a time stamp on every experience, whatever it gets. Actually, everything is just happening. It is not happening in time. The change is not happening in time. The time is a result of the change. So change is more fundamental, not the time. But the basic nature of the experience is that it is ever changing. It is impermanent. Impermanence is the characteristic of the experience. Everything comes and goes. And that is why it is also called as unreal. It is also called as Maya, or an illusion. Why? Imagine something that exists for a fraction of the second and is gone. Most of us would say that it does not exist. It is an illusion. It is not really there. Imagine anything that appears in front of your eyes and that is gone instantly in a blink of eye, and we will be forced to call it as an illusion because it came and it went. It did not stay. So you will find that all the experiences like this actually. Only thing is, some things are changing very slowly, and that gives you an illusion of stability, permanence, and reality. So, but just speed up things and you will find that nothing stays actually. Everything is fleeting. If it stays for long enough time, we can assume that it was real or stable or existed. But again, this is just for convenience. Nothing exists. Nothing exists forever. It simply changes into some other thing. Why? Because the shifting of the mind. If mind stands still, there won't be any experience. There won't be any change. There won't be any time. And nothing will be registered in the memory because nothing is changing. Memory is what? If something registers in the memory, and it is not exactly the same as what was already exist in the memory, then there is a new pattern in the memory now, and we can compare it with the old pattern and say that there was a change, and then we can derive the time out of it. This is the mechanism by which mind creates time, the illusion of time, because it shifts and then this illusion happens. And if it stands still, there won't be any time, there won't be any experience, there won't be any change. That would be real, but it is called vritti. Vritti of the mind is the process in the mind is that it is never stable. It is, it is jumping from one possibility to the other possibility, and it's kind of mysterious and very fundamental. It is the basic nature of the mind to do that. By mind, I simply mean a structure, again an experience, because mind itself is changing, so it is also an experience. It is being witnessed by the experiencer. So again we are into the depths of the experience, so we can come out into the more solid ground, which is our direct observation. So we can be pretty sure that everything is changing, and then we can very confidently say that all the experience is impermanent. Nothing will stay, nothing at all. Everything that can be experienced will be gone one day. It does not matter how long it stays. The long and short is just illusion. It depends on the memory. So another thing you will notice, the second characteristic of the experience is that all there is are forms, various forms coming via senses, or not very formed experiences coming via the mind, events happening in the mind itself. And you will find that there is no substance to the form. It is very easy to see it using when you directly observe your own mind, the events that are happening in the mind, the thoughts, memories, imaginations, feelings, emotions, whatever we call as mind, is just happening. There is no substance there. These events are not taking place in something, in a thing, in some material. It is not happening in a substance. The substance of the experience is emptiness. It is nothing there. They are just happenings. They are just events. So, but if you observe very, very carefully, they are happening in the background of consciousness. So we can as well say that the substance of all the experience is consciousness. That is, an experiencer is the background of all the experience, which means that it is the experience itself. An experience is made up of the substance of experiencer, which is emptiness. So all these forms are actually, they have emptiness underlying them. They are illusory. This is another way to conclude that there is no substance to all the experiences. Now it is somewhat difficult to see it in the physical kind of experience, because there is this illusion of solidity. But if you again pay close attention, observe them very, very carefully in an unbiased way, with removing all your conditioning, remove all your previous knowledge, and just observe your experience that you call as physical, and you will find that it is also it also has no substance. Where is it happening? In what it is happening? You can reduce it to the mind again, and then all perceptions are in the mind. But you will say that this chair is solid, my PC is solid, everything that I am seeing here is solid. I can touch it, and I can see it, and I can hear it actually. And my food, I can taste it. So isn't it, there is substance in it. It is made up of matter. But if you pay close attention to it, you never see matter. You just see the perceptions. You witness only the perceptions, and the perceptions are made up of colors, forms, the shapes, sounds, taste, whatever the senses are telling us. And these things, they do not have a substance. The substance is assumed when we encounter these. You can divide up these. You will find that these are all patterns. You can divide up the patterns, and you will find that these are made up of even more patterns. There are structured, simple patterns are structured and form complex patterns, and complex patterns form even more complex patterns, and they are all changing, but if they change very slowly, that you can register them using the senses. A tiny amount of them is being passed into the mind, human mind, through the senses. This body is a window into what is, and then a tiny amount gets through, and we see it as physical, but these are all patterns, and there is no substance to the pattern. So there is a kind of joke or something saying that the matter is made up of atoms and atoms are made up of matter. The thing is, if they are made up of each other, that means they are made up of nothing. Again, consciousness is the substance of matter also, because all the matters is just perception. Even if it comes via an instrument, it is only a perception. The instrument itself is a perception. It simply gives us a detailed view of the patterns. It does not tell us that the patterns have substance. The substances are assumed. So there are kinds of patterns, and the patterns are empty. So in summary, I can say that we learn 2 or 3 things about the experience through just by directly observing it. And the first is that it is impermanent. It is change. Experience is change. And change is experience. The experience is mostly patterns, you can say like this. And more organized patterns appear as solid when seen and real, and when seen from senses, they become the world. Illusion of the world is produced like this. And another important thing that we learned is there is no substance to the experience. Consciousness is the only substance, which is pure emptiness, cannot be grasped by the mind. It appears as empty. Mind can grasp only the illusion, the changes, the fleeting changes, the patterns of changes. That's all it can grasp. And it can organize them a little bit, calls it knowledge. And all the knowledge is just experience. Knowledge is organized experience. If you can make some sense out of the experience, if there is a meaning in the experience, we call it as knowledge. That's all there is. And another thing that we have seen, that we can divide up the experience into any kinds depending on the need and the convenience, but actually it is only of the one kind. We can name it as the metaphysical experience. We can divide it up into physical and non-physical. Then we find that the physical is also happening in the non-physical, thanks to the senses. And we can withdraw our mind, we can withdraw our attention from the physical, and we'll find that we are left with only non-physical. And if we go deeper into it, you will find that the world is, the physical world is not the only kind of physical experience you can have. You can have many kinds of physical experiences, and then it does not make any sense to call this world as physical. Now that is an advanced topic, and you must have attended that meeting where we discussed the techniques to gain the experience of the non-physical worlds, and then it becomes reality for you. Or you can call it exactly opposite. The reality of the physical world disappears once you have those experiences. So all those people who are interested in gaining knowledge about what this thing called experience is must actually experience it themselves, find it out what it is. Through direct observation, we will know that the properties of the experience. So what, in the end, what does it mean for us, in our daily life? What does this kind of reflection on the experience means? Is it even useful? Is it useful to call all the experiences fleeting, Maya, illusion and whatnot, emptiness? How is this going to benefit us? The thing is, it appears as a philosophy, it appears as spiritual, deep thinking, but it is very firm, it is very sound and grounded in direct observation. All the seeker needs to do is find it out for themselves. Find it out, whatever has been said, confirm it, deny it, or confirm it. Let it be your own truth. And then the implications are huge. There is an endless list of implications of it. It looks like it is kind of useless, I need to just survive and have a nice time, happy time, fun in this life, and why should I care about everything else? Now, if you have this kind of um, ideas, then you are a non-seeker. Only a seeker is concerned with what is, gaining knowledge and implementing it. So if you are a seeker, if you have the seeker material inside you, then you will find it out for yourself and you will implement it. The first thing happens is seeing the nature of the experience. Knowing the nature of the experience, we are immediately detached from it. And exactly opposite thing also happens. Seeing that everything is just me, it is a form of the experiencer, gets us even closer to it. So there is a peace. The mind becomes peaceful. It's not it kinds of enters into unconditional love with the experience. It lets it happen because that is what must happen. It is not my experience, it is just happening. There is no my there, there is no I there, because the experience is also me. So the usual knowledge stops making any sense. So we drop all that and we just let it be. We are not very much attached to it, and then we know that it is just me, so we are not totally detached from it also. We don't cling to it, and we don't even make struggle to get rid of it. What is wrong in being there and experience? What is wrong in there being a mind who is that is experiencing and creating all that stuff that it creates? There is nothing wrong in it. So it is kind of unconditional love affair that we enter into what is, which is just me. And that leads to a peaceful life. That leads to a life free from suffering. It is a blissful state to be in. We don't care what is happening. And then we do what is very, very necessary to keep the experience going. It's a fine balance. This is the essence of spiritual life. So its implications are very, very big. Getting rid of all these beliefs, makes us very firm and stable. We are not affected by the experiences anymore. It is the tendency of the mind to, stamp the experiences as good and bad. It was good for me. No, it was not good for me. And this was a pleasant experience, and that was a painful experience. You will find that this is the tendency of the mind. Things just are. Mind labels it as according to whatever its conditioning is. It is mostly interested in the egoic part of the mind is mostly interested in pleasure and survival, and that's why it seeks those kinds of experiences. So the seeking will stop. That kind of random rat race will stop, and that leads to a very fulfilling life, very satisfying life. You don't mind any kind of experience. You remain stable in all possibilities, all situations. So, and it takes a little bit of time to establish into this kind of lifestyle, but this is the ideal lifestyle from the point of view of a seeker. Our aim is, our goal is to be like that, to be very, very pure, like the witness that we are. So what is it going to do? Actually nothing, because we are already that. So it just takes a second to remove this belief, and then everything falls into place. Then the mind again falls back into ignorance, and we again bring it back into the light. And this becomes stable after a while through practice, and we just let the experience happen. Greg, good. Okay, I'll check them out. So yes, so if you go into the depth of everything, you'll find that many masters, they all arrive at the same thing, same conclusion. Our most ancient scriptures, they mention exactly the same thing. And the most modern scientists and knowers, seers, they also mention exactly the same thing. It is not a coincidence. It is not a miracle. This is the nature of the truth, because truth is one, and people arrive at that thing, truth through various paths. So yes, there will be, I'll check him out, Greg Good, if anything is on the net. Okay, thank you, and we'll meet again in our next meeting where we will go into the depths of the experience. We'll find out how is the mind itself created, how it is organized, what it is doing. So, see you in the next meeting. Thank you very much.
Pure experiences.
You were listening to Pure Experiences by Tharun Pradhan. For more, please visit pureexperiences.blogspot.in.